All right, so today I'm really delighted to welcome Maria Roldan, who's a holistic nutritionist and has a practice called Rediscover Your Health. I'm talking to Maria today, still on my theme of creation energy for this month. So, Maria is another person that I did the food and spirit qualification with. So, we were actually in the same cohort. So, we studied together, which is really nice. And we, in that course, we called this particular type of energy flow energy. And I do love that name, flow, leading us to think about all the watery, emotional aspects of life. But in my practice, I call it creation energy. So we'll probably use both of those words intermittently.
Sure.
But I'd love to welcome Maria. And Maria, if you would like to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing the work you're doing now and what exactly it is that you do, that would be great.
Right. Thank you so much, Arwin, for having me. It's lovely to work with my colleagues in from Food Spirit. So we speak the same language, and I'm delighted, and I'm even happier to use this session to speak a little more about perimenopause and menopause, all these changes that women go through, because there's so much out there and there's so much stigma around it that I think it's part of my mission to help women, to empower them around that stage in our lives. So that being said, I am a holistic nutritionist. I haven't always been in this field. I came to it from my own desire to heal, because the medical system had not been able to help me. So I was born and raised in Colombia, but I've lived in 3 different countries, and I actually started with the main reason why I went to nutrition was due to digestive issues very early on in my youth. So I saw specialists, doctors in Colombia, in the US, because I also lived in the US for 3 years. And then here in Canada, I've been in Canada for 15 years, and I saw multiple doctors here. And they were just never able to help. I would ask them, because to me, it seemed so common sense that if you had a problem in your digestion, that food had to do something with it, right? It's like, I'm having these symptoms, and it's like, well, food has to do with it. And I would ask them, why can I eat, or why can't I eat? And they would totally ignore me. They would be like, oh, what they would always say, just have some fiber, have some, all brand cereal. And it was like, that was the only thing anyway. So my background is in business. That's what I went to university for. And I was working in a very stressful environment. I worked for 13 years in the IT industry with multinational companies, and very, very stressful jobs. So that wasn't helping, my digestion. And it was here in Canada where I got to a point where I said, nobody's helping me. I'm going to help myself. Because there was that little voice inside, my intuition was guiding me to this, and to say, you got to do it. I had an inclination of admiring nature, and I would think, there's got to be something, not just, food, but, nature itself. I love those like natural therapies. I was introduced to yoga before even nutrition. I was introduced to yoga, and I was finding a lot of help through that. But once again, my common sense would keep telling me food. So since I wasn't that happy with all the stress in, that world, that professional world that I was in, I started doing research, and I found a fantastic school here in Canada. I love that the program is in holistic nutrition. So let me explain to you. So a nutritionist is a health professional that uses foods as their main tool to help their clients promote health.
Yeah.
But a holistic nutritionist goes a little beyond that. They not only teach us about foods at school, how to use foods therapeutically, but they also teach us about supplements, vitamins and minerals and herbs. We are by no means, like graduate herbalists, but we do get a really good handle on the main therapies that you can do with herbs. And they also teach us Ayurveda, and they teach us, we see energy medicine. So it gives you tools to approach a client from different perspectives, always having nutrition, as your main tool,
Mm-hmm.
but it teaches you to see your clients in a holistic way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might not be, a psychologist, you might not be a yoga teacher, but you might tell them, what, I think you need to see a therapist. I think you should go to yoga classes. It's all these things. And then I graduated in 2010, but after that, I just kept, I'm a lifelong learner. I absolutely love, just expanding my knowledge. So I continued taking a lot of courses, always around nutrition and health and alternative therapies. And that's what led me to Food and Spirit, which even deepened that holistic approach that I learned at nutrition school. The Food and Spirit certification gives us a more defined framework, to any health practitioner. In my case, as a nutritionist, it gives me that framework that I can use to assess my clients and help them, guide them with all the tools that we learn there. So, but going back a little bit to my story, so I started with, the digestive problems. That's what took me right to nutrition. That's what I thought my problem was. But I got to tell you that in my limited knowledge, I thought that was the only thing that nutrition was going to help me with. But it turned out that nutrition helped me with so much more. Because when my dad passed away, I was 26 years old, 26, 27. And at that moment, I, went through of course, deep sadness, and I was, with a little depression. And the doctors, that moment in my life exacerbated symptoms and things that I had had my whole life, like being a person, a warrior, right? I was a warrior. I was easily stressed out. I was a really good student. So I was a, type A personality, super smart and always there. But I used to get very stressed out about all these things, right? And I accomplished a lot at a very young age, and that caused a lot of anxiety. So they actually put me on meds. I mean, this was before, right? I got interested in holistic health, right? And back then, that doctor that I saw, my general practitioner doctor, this was in the US, by the way, this was in the United States. Mm-hmm. And, a friend told me, you should go to the doctor because, I was struggling. I was losing weight, but I was sad. And once again, I have just lost my dad, right? And I was in a different country. I was away from my family. So now, when you look back, it's like the doctor could have said, why don't you do some exercise? Why don't you take some class in something that you enjoy? Why don't you go more to the beach or what, other things? What are you eating? What's your diet like? Because that's a major factor in depression, right? And anxiety. No, they just went the route that most doctors, I'm not going to say all doctors, there are fantastic doctors out there, But this doctor put me on an antidepressant, and without ever warning me that it's very difficult to come off of these meds. And so that was another thing that I had in the back of, that I was dealing with. And then when I got to nutrition school, I'm like, oh my God, so I can also get off of these medications, with the help of nutrition and holistic health. So, then my digestion has been like so much better. I mean, I struggle here and there like most people, but what I originally had, that's just in the past, then it was more like anxiety became the main reason why I was using all this holistic knowledge that I now had. And Arwen, it's so when I went to school, I was already in my early 30s. I mean, to nutrition school. And then by the time I became a mom, so I had my son when I was 38. And I'm telling you, Arwen, you think you work on, I thought I had a lot of things under control. I thought I had gotten a lot better. But the reality hits you hard when you have a son in a foreign country, when you are alone with your husband. There's nobody around to help you. With someone that has that tendency to be very anxious and a warrior. And motherhood I love being a mom, like absolutely love being a mom. But boy, was it ever hard on me, like pregnancy, everything. And I'm gonna start connecting the dots now to my current stage. Like I'm 45 years old now. I'm pretty close to, in August I'll be 46.
Right. So just keep saying 45 for another couple of months.
Okay,
definitely.
You're right. I'll keep saying 45. The thing, Arwen, is that so do the math. My son is born. I'm 38. I had a difficult pregnancy where I barely slept during the pregnancy, so 9 months. Then the kid is born. Then you are sleep deprived because of the baby, and then it's the accumulation. I mean, my kid, love him to pieces, but that kid has been a terrible sleeper. Like it's only been in the last year that he has given us some peace on that.
Wow.
On that side and he's 7.5.
Yeah.
So imagine everything that was happening to my body, right? At the time, like struggling. And when you're a first-time mom, it's very stressful. You have no idea what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of insecurities and a lot of things. And so I went through all that in my 40s, right? I got into my 40s and the not sleeping, being away from my family. My nutrition was good. It wasn't great because I was always so tired. So I would just, do whatever.
Yeah.
But still not bad, not terribly bad. And the proof is that my digestion was still, it was still good. But then my body just said enough. And at 43 years old, I went into early menopause.
Wow.
Just like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, so this is the part that saddens me the most when I think of other women. If this happened to me, that I'm so health conscious and I'm very proactive and I'm always, going to my doctor and asking him to do tests on me and, all these things. And I remember asking my family doctor. Here in Canada, it's very similar to Australia, right? You have a family doctor and then that's your main, that's your primary care physician. And then if you need something else, he refers you to someone else, right?
Yep.
And I love my doctor. He's the sweetest. I love him. And he listens and all this stuff, but still he doesn't have the training. So I would ask him, can you please check my hormones? And the guy would just send me some basic things, nothing major. So he'd be like, oh, you're fine. And honestly, there was so much going in my life and so much, tiredness and dealing with the high needs kid that I just, okay, he says I'm fine. I trusted him. Trusted him. And then so I'm going to start mentioning what are some of the symptoms. And I'm If you want, do you want me to maybe talk about what perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, that would be great. So that's
okay.
Definitely the
Let's
focus
clarify.
for our chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's clarify that because let me tell you that even I thought that menopause was far in the future.
Years away.
I was like, oh, I still have time, And my mom went through a traumatic menopause, but for different reasons. Like she went very early into menopause because she had a hysterectomy. So, but she struggled. So in my head, both her and all of her sisters had a very difficult time during menopause. So I had the stigma as well. I had the stigma of like, oh my God, when I get to menopause, it's going to be horrible. Like, I don't want to get there. It's horrible. Well, so I guess subconsciously I was dismissing a lot of symptoms because I was in denial. I was like, no, I can't be menopausal or perimenopausal. I'm too young for that. Yeah. Well, it turns out that at 35, you pretty much start perimenopause. At 35 around that time is when your ovaries start producing less progesterone and estrogen. Okay. So it's kind of like, okay, your reproductive years are over. Like you want to have a kid. If you haven't had a kid yet, you better have it soon because that's it, right? That's just how nature intended it, right? But you know how modern societies, we're all having kids like later in life. So you start and you can go from 10 to 15 years in what's called perimenopause. And peri meaning like pre-menopause, is a transition to. And this term actually didn't exist until like 20 years. So, we're in 2020. So we're talking that this is just like a 21st century thing when the medical community, started putting a name to all these things.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yes. And it's sad because anyway, that's a different discussion. But women's health, it's a subject that sometimes the medical community doesn't feel too comfortable with, especially because back in the day it was mostly men, right, dealing with women's health. So who's going to advocate for you if they don't even know how it feels? Right. So anyway, so you can go from 10 to 15 years where your hormones start fluctuating. So the production, it's not that you go down right away. It's that you start going in really deep fluctuations that it's actually your body's way of saying, oh, wait a second, no, let's improve this. It's like the pineal gland starts sending more signals to your ovaries. Like, no, guys, come on, like keep working a little more. So it causes a lot of ups and downs. So ironically, it's the thing that women should understand is that the most difficult part is premenopause, is leading to, because once you get to, so menopause is really a term to say, okay, a woman has been for at least 12 months without their periods. And it usually occurs at 51 or 52 years old. That's the average. Okay. It can start as early as 38. There's a lot of cases of early menopause, especially with our crazy, once again, our crazy, modern society, where we're all always so stressed out, go. But once you hit menopause, then you immediately become postmenopausal, right? So in reality is, if we are strict to terminology, is you're either premenopausal or postmenopausal. Because menopause is just the moment in time where the doctor says, okay, well, it's been 12 months, so yes, that's it. You're menopausal, but now you're postmenopausal. So when your hormones start in this declining process, you can experience a wide range of symptoms that go from the very well-known hot flashes, okay, very uncomfortable thing to feel. So hot flashes, night sweats that can also be debilitating. I mean, we're not talking about getting a little hot. We're talking about like sweats deep that wake you up in the middle of the night and you have to change your PJs and then you can't go back to sleep. Moodiness, insomnia, mental fog, irritability, fatigue. Like those are the main ones. Those are the main ones. And of course, if you, I mean, think about it. If you have a couple of those together, and usually they don't happen just one, usually you have at least 2 or 3 of them. Imagine if you have insomnia and you are
fatigued.
Yes, fatigued, and you're having the hot flashes as well.
Yeah.
It's like so it can lead to anxiety, depression, like it really affects your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a big connection there.
Yeah.
So yes, that's to clarify like terminology. And I went straight to to the very low level. So pretty much when I look back on my timeline, so after I had my son, I was already, all the stress and the sleepless nights and everything. I was going through perimenopause. Like I was already going through it. And so the thing that you got to understand is that it's not just about your ovaries. It's not just about the reproductive tract. It's about, there's 2 other major players in menopause and in hormonal health in general. And those are your thyroid and the adrenal glands. Okay. So if those 2 are, not working at their best, then it's just a recipe for disaster. And I'll give you the physiological reason why, especially the adrenals, which are the stress hormones. It is the gland that produces the stress the hormones to regulate stress, and they're also related to insulin, which we use for sugar management, another hormone, right? So when your ovaries start declining, your adrenal glands take over a lot of the production of your estrogen and your progesterone. Okay. What does that mean? That you need to have your adrenals in very good shape in order to thrive during this period of your life, because your ovaries don't have it in them anymore. Okay. So you're going to rely a lot more in your adrenal glands. So what does that mean in practical terms? Girl, you gotta tone it down. You gotta get the stress out of your life. You have to really give yourself a rest. And I love an expression where they said, in menopause, it's in theory, and I obviously, acknowledge all the women that decide not to have kids, but regardless, you're going to go through this. But I'm talking in the context of a mom, like you and I, there are moms. So we as women, but on top of that, as moms, we give. We're always giving. We're mothering. But when menopause comes, you gotta mother yourself. You gotta take care of yourself. And there's something else that I absolutely love. Another way of looking at it is menopause puts a microscope, puts your life under a microscope. What does that mean? It's like anything that you haven't dealt with, Arwen, it's gonna come bite you. It's gonna come after you in menopause. So in my case, I still hadn't gotten over, the anxiety. Like there was still a lot that was there that I hadn't dealt with the root causes and the things. Of course, you put on top of that the fact that they had medicated me, before. So that created a different cycle there in my own personal case, recipe for disaster. But I had struggled with insomnia in the past, so it came back. The insomnia, the fatigue. It was extremely difficult. It's like everything. So my, what I want women to know is, this is it. It's like, you have no choice. You want to thrive in life. You want to have, you want to be happy it's like, okay, just rethink your life. You're already, like, let's say halfway through your life, midlife, right? How are you going to live the other half? What are you going to do? This is like, you have to do something about it. You have to put yourself first. That's the time where it actually might be too late. Like it was my case. It was a little late for me. I had to put so many resources and so much time, so much energy for me to get to the place where I am now for the past, 3 years, that I wish women didn't have to go through what I went through. That to me, it was like so sudden, that it created a healing crisis right there. And Arwen, and the other thing is that I really, really want to stress, and I'm talking to you now from the other side, because I am thriving. Like, I am almost 46 and I'm feeling better than I felt at 26. Like, I can tell you that with confidence.
Yeah.
So I want women to understand that this change is something to embrace. It's not something to fight. Okay? It's a new opportunity in your life. It's a different type of creation. And I know what you do. I know what your tools are, Arwen. And so the language that I'm going to speak, I know you're going to get it, and your audience is going to get it. There is so much wisdom in this stage of your life. There's something about not having that constant fluctuation, which in itself, it also comes with wisdom, but you enter a stage where that's what life meant to do. It's like, okay, now you're going to have this different energy, a more subtle energy, a more stable energy, so that you have a constant current of wisdom available to you at all times. You gotta gain it though, because if you go into the crazy menopause and you don't do anything about it, and if you go the route of just drinking more wine and eating more foods because you're not feeling well, and you're just stuffing all what you're feeling and stuffing it with a terrible diet and not exercising and not doing anything, then you're not going to get that wisdom that I'm talking about, right? But if you think about, nature is very wise. It's like, why would nature decide that women had to go through hell in menopause? That's not, you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense. Nature is very wise. So I am absolutely convinced that all these terrible symptoms of menopause, you're not supposed to feel them at that strength. It's kind of like a rite of passage.
Rite of passage, yeah.
Rite of passage, right? Like, okay, you have to go through some difficulties. You have to gain your spot in that wise women group, right? But it's not meant to be this debilitating thing that it has become. And that I know how it felt. I'll tell you, Arwen, I thought I was losing it. Like, that's exactly how I felt when I was in the middle of, when they still didn't know what was going on with me. Like, why wasn't I sleeping? Why was I so tired? And why? And then it's like you finally connect the dots and understand what's going on. And then you move on, then you embrace it. Oh, I was speaking of embracing, weight gain. I forgot to mention that weight gain is a very common symptom, of menopause. There's there's a very sudden weight gain, and in all this embracing and just owning the stage of your life, it comes some acceptance as well. I'm not saying that there's nothing to do about the weight, not at all. I mean, yes, you can get to a good place, but it's definitely not the same to lose weight when you're in menopause than it is when you're in your 20s. It's a lot more difficult, right?
Yeah.
Because you're especially because your adrenal system is so busy now, doing their own job. It's doing its own job, but it's also doing the job of helping to produce other hormones. That extra cortisol, cortisol is like one of the main hormones that the adrenal glands produce. And when you have it in excess, it can cause, weight gain, especially around the belly area. That's the most famous, the muffin top, it's that area. That's a very hormonal type of weight gain. Okay. And the other thing is when I said, adrenals, I think I've stressed more the adrenal part, but the thyroid, like I had to be put on thyroid replacement therapy because I had hypothyroidism. Like it was subclinical, meaning it was not too bad. It was not enough for the traditional doctor to consider it, important, but it was contributing to all my symptoms. So thyroid, you got to remember, I want people to take from this that your thyroid, your adrenals, they work very closely together, and then they both influence your reproductive organs and that production of hormones. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's a little, it's complex. Like there's a lot of hormones because then testosterone also comes into play, and it can show up as low libido for women, vaginal dryness, and actually recurrent UTIs are also something that can be a sign of you going through perimenopause. Okay. That happened to me for a while. Yes. So, and these things get missed so easily by the medical community, missed and dismissed, because UTIs, everybody gets UTIs. No, wait, I mean, why? Like, why? Just go check, look, and don't be taking, like, I never took the antibiotics. Like I would go with herbs to treat that. But I started wondering, right away, okay, wait a second, I never had UTIs in my life. Why am I having this now? So, yeah. And it's such a beautiful, I mean, making the link with the system that we're talking about, your, the creator, the flow that we are talking about today in the context of your practice, Arwen. So the reproductive organs are the main area of creation in a woman. However, we are, we're human beings. We're always creating. We're made out of cells. We're always creating. We're creative by nature. But it's definitely something that I relied a lot on my healing process when I went into menopause. Just reinventing yourself, reinventing the way you do things, reinventing being creative with your self-care, and giving yourself the space to be that artist that it necessarily, I don't paint, like I'm not, I never thought of myself as an artist or creative person, but guess what? We all are in some way, in the kitchen, in the way
exactly.
that
Cooking,
exactly,
gardening,
exactly. As our mentor teaches us, there's so many different types of creatives. So now I have embraced that as a part of my life, and that even though I am not, let's say, a fertile woman, as in, I couldn't conceive a child anymore. Technically, I mean, I guess you could with the intervention of medicine, but that doesn't mean that you're not creating, that you cannot tap into this wisdom, the wisdom of this stage to create in your life. Yes.
Yeah, so true. I love the expression of that when you go into menopause, like you talked about, you gain wisdom, and the expression that you're no longer bleeding out your wisdom every month is a really
Great.
positive way to look at menopause, I think.
Yes. Oh,
And
and that's a great upside, right? It's like,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's
yeah.
yeah. So,
Absolutely. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right as well, because I know I've heard of studies of, societies that are living in a more traditional way, and women who still, who aren't living in our Western way, who just go, what are you talking about? Menopause, it's just, I've
yes,
stopped menstruating, what do you mean? It's
exactly.
this horrible thing. So,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
really. I wanted to just touch on adrenal fatigue, which I know is kind of an up and down term, and has gone out of popularity recently, but it's probably something that a number of people um, have heard of and maybe think applies to them, because you mentioned how the adrenals are so important in menopause. So can you just talk a little bit about that? Is it something that, and how does somebody investigate that as well?
Sure, sure. Well, I don't like to use the term anymore. Like I know, I mean, when you said it was overused, and I think it's a. I mean, I used to use it, like I said, back in the days. Now we understand a lot more about what's going on, and now we know better not to blame it just on the adrenals, right? It's a very narrow-minded thing to say it's just because of your adrenals. I mean, the signals to every single organ in your endocrine system is coming from your brain, right? So it's not just the adrenal glands. If something is going on there, look upstream, and there's the hypothalamus, and there are master glands in our brain that are really working on this. And here's the interesting part. The symptoms of adrenal fatigue, which mainly, it's like you're extremely tired, like you have like mental fog. It's also, those are also symptoms of an underperforming thyroid. So
Mm-hmm.
once again, the thyroid and the adrenals work hand in hand. They influence each other. So you can't just go and say, oh, work on my adrenals. You know what? Just work on your health in
Work on
general.
yourself, yeah.
Work on yourself. And it's funny because at the end of the day, the recommendations are very similar for every condition, right? It's like you gotta eat right. You gotta have a good exercise routine according to the age that you're at, because maybe HIIT exercises are not the best for menopausal,
Oh, I'm so
postmenopausal,
glad you said
like
that.
me, right? It's not right, but some type of movement, mindful movement.
Yeah.
And how about, so we haven't even talked about a subject that is dear to me, and it's been also critical in my recovery on all levels in my life, and that is meditation. I think I mentioned it briefly as when I discovered yoga, then I got introduced to it. But ladies, you need to learn to breathe. You need to do mindful breathing, which that's what it is. Take the mystery out of what meditation is. It's just focused breathing, okay? For some time. Start small. You don't have to sit down, and forget that ridiculous idea that most people think that when you meditate, your mind is going to go blank, and you're not going to have any thoughts, and you're going to be
Impossible.
no.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's not what it is, guys. No, it's a muscle that you're going to be training. That's what it is. You're going to be training your brain to come back to the present moment. That's what you're doing. Okay, so you got to do that. You got to meditate. You got to eat right. You got to move. And it's the same things that apply for everything. You know, it's called it thyroid and adrenal. I mean, these are the basics of health, right? So, so yeah, so that's my message. I mean, to your question about adrenal fatigue, it really is a very narrow-minded way of approaching things. If you are experiencing those symptoms, there's something bigger than that, and it's all your endocrine glands that are involved. Okay,
Yep.
not just the adrenals. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I know we're nearly out of time, but so can you just perhaps leave us with what your top tips are for things that women who are going into this time of life can do in order to prevent the horrible symptoms that get talked about, and as we're saying, you know, really can be avoided? So what I know you've just said now, and it's probably going to be the same things: food, exercise, mindfulness, meditation. I'm sure sleep would come in there as well, prioritizing sleep.
Yes, absolutely. And Arwen, I'll tell you something that one of the menopause experts that I used to listen to when I was in the middle of trying to find, you know, what do I do? She said, right away, today, take off your plate 25% of your commitments. She was like, that's it. You're going to reduce your workload by 25%. Do it.
Wow, that's
and I was like, what? But you know what? It's true. It makes sense. And the way that I approach that is I don't think about the number, because I'm actually busier now that it was 3 years ago when I was in the middle of the crisis. But it's really about how I approach now my work. I am very conscientious of my energy. Like, I only put my energy where it's needed, where I want to have it. So I don't multitask as I used to. Not because I can't, I'm still able to do it, but I do it for the main reason of, you know what, my energy reserves now, I run out of energy a lot faster. That's something that I still have. You know, it's like I run out of energy a lot faster now because my adrenals are busy dealing with their own thing and helping with the hormones, right? Mm-hmm. So you gotta be careful with that. You know what, with how am I using my energy? So you gotta be a lot wiser on what you choose, not just as your work, but also as the people that you surround yourself with.
Yep.
Right. You got to start prioritizing that as well. What relationships are you really going to keep in your life? What brings you, you know, what gives you energy? What doesn't bring you energy?
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Exactly. So I know you and I learned that from our mentor, and it's a fantastic tool. It's very simple. What gives you energy? What takes energy off of you? Yeah. And you do the math. It's up to you to decide how to keep that balance. And some things give you and take off of you, right? So with those, you have to learn to find it, you know, to find that balance out there. But I want to say, I mean, I don't want to leave without saying something more specific to nutrition, which is my main field. And that is, you know, you're going to need to get serious about your nutrition, because you probably gain weight, and then you're going to be like, oh, you know, what do I do? And nothing works. No. Yes, it's going to be a little more difficult, but look at the bright side. This is going to keep you accountable to always be eating really well. Because if you don't, you very quickly are going to add up those pounds. So lots of cruciferous vegetables, because, I mean, no surprise, eat more vegetables. And you think you're eating enough, eat some more.
Yeah.
Because eat some more. But the cruciferous family in particular are very useful for liver function. It helps. It helps a lot with detoxification and with how your body handles hormones. So those ones are key. Fiber is key. Also, fiber and having regular bowel movements, which, fiber and water. Think about both at the same time. That's also going to help your liver. So liver health is key for everyone, but when you get to your perimenopause and menopause, is even more important. It's even more important. It's very, very related to how your body is moving, is recycling those hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So there is let's say something like flax is extremely helpful. That type of fiber is extremely helpful for women, also because it has the added benefit of being a source of omega-3s.
Yeah.
So we need those omegas. You need lots of fiber. You need lots of color, in your diet. Lots of the phytonutrients from a plant-based.
Yep.
A plant-based, and by plant-based, I don't mean being vegan or vegetarian. I mean just eating a lot of vegetables.
Yeah.
Protein. You gotta think that protein is your best friend. Protein, make sure your meals have enough protein, good quality fats, super important as well. And then, of course, there are a lot of herbal remedies that are fantastic to help, helping with the symptoms. Okay. There's a lot of formulas out there, just at the top of my head, something like hops. There's a herb called Vitex or case tree berry. There is, if you're having insomnia, there's valerian.
Yep.
And then there's lemon balm. There's so many things, and there's the whole group of adaptogenic herbs that are fantastic, to help you if you are still in the process, and even during and after, right, menopause. So there's a lot of resources. I really encourage women to find a practitioner and to work to explore, what herbs can help you, because there's a lot of wisdom in nature in that way as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like, I was going to say, actually, when you're talking about your qualification as a holistic nutritionist, that sounds quite similar to naturopathy. And I don't know if it's the same there, but it sounds like it's almost a mini naturopathy qualification.
Right. It's like a mini, obviously. I mean, I absolutely love naturopaths, and they have a lot more training than we do. I mean, we really focus on nutrition, and naturopaths now are focusing a lot on nutrition, like everyone. I mean, in our community of functional medicine, nutrition has become like the centerpiece, right? But naturopaths they're doctors, right? So they can treat a lot more way beyond my scope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody wants to, really explore, I guess the herbal remedies,
I would encourage
that sort of thing, then they're going to need to find a nutritionist or a naturopath in Australia.
Yes.
To do that. And I mean, thank goodness we've got you guys, because still nutrition is so very low or not even considered in traditional medicine. Right. So hopefully that's, slowly changing, but it still isn't. So thank you so much, Maria. It's been fabulous. I would love
my pleasure
to tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. Do you work, do you do consultations virtually, meaning that anybody around the world could consult with you if they wanted to?
Yes, I have always worked that way. It's a virtual practice. I have another job in the industry, so I work part-time for a social enterprise that is in the natural health products industry. And then the other part-time, I still do my consultations. Yeah, my nutrition consultation. It's my big passion. I'm always learning about it. I love to educate on it and support people, because nutrition, I mean, think about it. Is the basics. It is the basics. You have, if you don't eat, you die.
Yeah. It's
And
the energy that we put in our body. Yeah.
It's decisions. How many food decisions do you make in your life? It's like every day, at least 3 times.
Yeah.
Or let's say even 2 times. It's at least 2 times every day you have an opportunity to heal yourself.
Yeah.
Or to
prevent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, what are we made of? I think people forget that. I mean, people forget that our cells and every organ in our body is made out of nutrients and, you know, proteins, vitamins, minerals. Yeah. So that's what we're made of.
Yeah.
That's so, you know, you gotta take care of it by feeding what our body really needs.
Yeah. Thrive. Allowing it to continue to create you.
Yes, exactly.
So can you just say what are the best ways for people to get in touch with you if they do want to do that?
Right. So it's my website is the easiest thing. So it's mariaroldan.ca. Mm-hmm. And I have the links at the, right there on the left side to my social media. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So, but it's mariaroldan.ca would be the main place to find me.
Okay, fabulous. So whenever I put this interview out there on anywhere I place it, I'll definitely link to that for you.
Okay.
And it would be great if people would like to get in touch with you. And I just want to say thank you so much. It's been really fun. And, you know, I just think so positive. You've got such a positive and uplifting way of communicating to women. And, you know, I think we put our bodies through so much. And yes. I hope that people will really listen to what you're saying. And I love that bit about taking 25% off your plate. And we're not talking about your dinner plate. We are talking about your life.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you, Arwen. I love doing this. Thank you for having me.